Hi guys, it's Owen here again with today's top tip, trick and shortcut. Well, I say top tip, but really it's kind of a number of tips. In actual fact, it's my 10 favorite tips when it comes to Excel. 10 tips that every Excel user should have from a basic level to advanced levels. There's some fantastic little tips and tricks. Let's get that ball rolling straight away. Let me just show you these very, very quickly. And as I said, I'll go through each of these throughout the session itself. I want to show you the best way to navigate, the best way to highlight, the best way to copy of data if you don't want to use the autofill. How to switch on filters if you love your shortcut keys. You can see the lovely control shift there. We'll talk about that. Your control keys, control 1 if you're doing a lot of formatting, what all the controls keys can do. F4, okay? If you're making your cells absolute, you're talking about relative and absolute referencing, or you can repeat your last actions, that's where your F4 comes in. You've got your F9 as well, that if you're recalculating something, if you've got your spreadsheet set in manual calculation mode, you can do that too. I want to show you how to duplicate worksheets. Probably, by the way, one of my favorite little tips. You've seen a few of these before. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke about tables. And I talked about the shortcut key. Well, I'm going to throw that at you again today as well. And then an absolutely brilliant feature as well, your flash fill. You've heard me talk about it. Well, again, it's got its own shortcut key too. So look, rather than me just talking about these, let me show you all of these in action. Let me step out of my presentation. I'm just going to open up my basic Excel file I have here. So the first one that I want to show you is what's the best way to navigate data sets. So as you probably know, and if you've been following my videos, you know that Excel 365, the version that I'm using today, has 1 million plus rows to work with, 16,000 plus columns. So essentially you could be working with huge data sets. And especially then if you start going into the power tools, you can work with hundreds of millions of rows. So you need to be able to kind of navigate these things a little quicker. So one of the best ways to do it, obviously, is not grabbing your scroll bar, but to use the arrow keys on your keyboard. Okay. So for example, you can see I'm clicked up in cell A2 here. Date. I want to jump around this data, see how big it is. And this isn't a particularly big data, but you'll get the general gist. So if I do control arrow right, look what it does. It brings me to the last column that has data in it. Okay, but I want to come across the price because then I want to come down to the last row of data. So if I do control arrow down, and you can see control and your arrow keys just make it that bit easier to navigate your data. Now, little bonus one, I'm going to throw it in right now. A lot of people will say to me, yeah, I've used the control and the arrow keys before, but I sometimes use control home and end. Brilliant. That's another way of navigating. However, with the control and the arrow keys, you get that little bit more control. So what about this then? So now you know how to navigate. What about highlighting? So if I said to you highlight that data set, it's important that we need to be able to highlight it, formatting purposes, whatever it is. Okay? Take the tip I've just given you and add the shift key to that. So control shift and your arrow keys. Watch this. Control shift, arrow left, arrow down, and look at that. In a matter of seconds, it's highlighted that data set. Or if I wanted to just highlight the headings because I'm going to maybe bold those. Watch this. Control shift, arrow right. And you can see it's highlighting all my data. And then I can go in and I can bold those, or they're already bold, but I can switch them on, switch them back off again, add a little bit of color to them. Look, come in here, I can add a bit of color, you name it. Okay? Control on the arrow keys for navigating, control shift and your arrow keys for highlighting. Now, I'm going to show you another one. So this is the great one for the alternative to the autofill. Okay, so maybe you don't like jumping on your mouse all the time. Maybe you use a laptop and you're trying to use a touchpad all the time. So here's one for you. So I want to work a little formula that says take that to work out the total, multiply by the price. So your units by your price. Now, what you're probably used to at this stage is I could go down to the autofill here. Okay, and I can click and I can drag down using the autofill. So that little tool there, bottom right corner, is called your autofill. Alternatively, you could highlight the cell that you've got the format in. I could highlight this data set here, not a particularly big data set, and simply hit Control D. And look what it does. It copies that formula all the way down. Now you can also use it, and I'm just going to do this very quickly. I can put in 1, 2, 3 here, and I want to copy that down for whatever reason to a couple of cells here. Control D, same thing. Okay, so Control D, kind of like a little alternative to your autofill. Absolutely brilliant. Now, you're working with a data set like we have here. and you're doing a lot of filtering. Okay, so what do you normally do? Okay, so I'll go into my data tab here because I know filters is, and I switch it on that way. Or why not use the shortcut key? Control Shift L. And look what it does. It automatically switches on the filters. Little bonus tip in here. What you notice, by the way? Did you notice I didn't highlight the headings? I mean, many times I've seen people come in and what they first of all do is they highlight the headings first. Then they click on the filter button because it's like you're telling Excel that's where the headings exist. Again, look, because this is one block of data, Control Shift L, it knows where to put those drop down handles for you. Control Shift L will switch them off as well. Absolutely super. Again, just kind of flying through these as quickly as I can. Let's say we wanted to make a few bit of formatting changes here. So why am I clicking and dragging when I can just do my Control Shift? So I want to put a bit of formatting on that. Now we have, under our Home tab, all our lovely formatting tools. Okay, well, some of them. What if I wanted to get a few more that I can't see here? So what do we normally have to do? You've got to go to Home, you've got to go maybe into Font or Alignment, into those groups, and use the dialog box launchers here. So you can see here, look, click on it, and it brings me to the Font tab here. Or Control 1, and it brings up that dialog box for you. Look, and I can go into number, I can go into alignment, I can go into fonts, you know, fill color. So if I want to put a little bit of fill color on the background of this, so let's go with a kind of a, I don't know, a dark blue here. And you can see then I can go back in if I wanted to, Control 1, and I can go into font then, and I can come in and I can change the color if I need be, and click OK, and you can see. So again, using Control 1, nice formatting little, or shortcut for your formatting. Guess what? Control and your number keys, they'll do quite a number of things for you. Control 2, for example, is the shortcut key for bold. Now you're going to say to me, well, it's easy to hit Control B. I know, but they have numerous different ways to kind of do these things. So if you get a few minutes, hold down that Control key and hit your numbers 1 to 9 all the way up, and you'll see all the different options that they have. It's just, I like the formatting one, which is particularly good. Now, moving on from there then, I want to talk about a feature I see people working with formulas on a constant basis. I'll give a quick example. I've worked out the total here. I want to work out the VAT on each of these totals. So I'm going to say, well, we can see my VAT is here. So I'm going to take this figure here, and I'm going to say multiply that by the VAT rate, which is over here, please. Now, I'm not putting the 21% into the formula simply because, well, what if the VAT rate changes? Okay, and it has done in the past. It's gone back to 21, went up to 23, whatever. Again, I want to just make it that if it changes, I can simply make one change here. Now, very quickly, what you're noticing here is these two cells are known as relative cells. What that basically means is if I copy this formula down, that G3 will become G4, G5, G6, which is what we want. However, the J3 will become J4, J5, which is not what we want. So what we need to do is we need to leave one of them relative, so it moves with the formula. We need to make the other absolute. It's called an absolute reference. And the beauty about this shortcut, by the way, is it'll also give you what they call a mixed reference. So you're leaving the dollar on the column part or the row part. For the moment, we're just going to make it fully absolute. My cursor is flashing beside the G3 in my formula. And if I simply hit F4, look what it does. It puts the dollar signs in for me. The amount of times over the years I've seen people manually putting the dollar signs in or manually taking them out. Look, there's your relative. Look, F4 once, fully absolute. Twice, just leaves it on the row, takes it away from the column. 3 times, puts it back on the column, takes it away from row, and 4 times switches it off. So in this case, look, enter, and guess what? If I wanted to, I could grab my autofill that you know about, or I could highlight all the way down. Whoops, bit too much there. I could highlight all the way down. I'm going to get down to the end here. We can use our lovely shortcut key, Control D, and let's see if it copies that formula down, which it does, and it's still looking at J3. Okay, so again, these shortcuts just designed to make it that little bit easier as well. And again, just remember one thing about and I can change that to 23%, and you can see I can use my, whoops, I hit my F4 key again, but you can see if you want to repeat your last action, you can use the F4 key. I use it mainly for making my cell references absolute, or taking the dollars away, or moving the dollars around. That's your F4 key. Another good one there, and I'm just going to go into a more kind of slightly more complex formula here. I've built a very simple if statement. Now, we will talk about formulas and stuff like that in later videos. This is a very simple nested if function. Now, at the moment, this nested if function is working out the result based on the average, whether they get a distinction, merit, pass, or fail for each of these students. Now, at the moment, you can see there's 12 students. But imagine there was 1,200. Imagine there was thousands of students here and you're doing the same thing. Problem is, you've got a big, or not in this case, not particularly big, because with a nested if statement, you can have up to 64 ifs within it. But imagine every time, and I'm just going to copy this formula down, and you can see it's working away nicely for me here, working out whether it's, a pass, merit, distinction, or even a fail. But imagine with those thousands of students, and you're making changes to this on a constant basis. And every time it does that, it has to recalculate. Okay? So what a lot of people have done in the past is they go into their formulas tab and they switch the calculation from automatic to manual. Automatic basically means is as soon as you put a formula in and you hit the enter key, it automatically calculates that formula for you. And any changes you make, it automatically calculates. But there are some with large spreadsheets that switch that to manual. So now you can see, look, so if I change that to 84, that, should be now a distinction. But look, it's stuck on merit. Okay? So what I have to do here is I have to go up to formulas, go back in here, change it back to automatic, or calculate the sheet now, or use your lovely shortcut key. With this, it'll recalculate that sheet for you. Okay? There's my F9, and it recalculates that sheet. Okay, again, I'm only throwing this shortcut key at you simply because I have come across in the past spreadsheets like this. It's not something I'd advise, because what can happen sometimes is people forget to switch it back to automatic calculation, send it on to somebody else. They think their formulas aren't working anymore. But again, the first thing I normally say to my students is, if I get somebody asking me a question like that, hit your F9 key and watch what happens. Okay, and it just means it's set to manual calculation. Anyway. It also allows you to evaluate certain parts of your formula too, by the way. So if you're having an error within the formula, you can highlight certain aspects of the formula and hit your F9 key and watch it calculate for you, okay? But again, really nice little tip to have. Now, you've spent the time designing a lovely spreadsheet, okay? And now maybe that was the figures for, let's just change this to 2020. Now I need the same thing, but for 2021. So I want the same formulas, the data will be different. So do I recreate the whole thing again? Absolutely not. You're going to use one of my favorite little tips when it comes to Excel. The next time you want to duplicate any worksheet in any workbook, okay, don't highlight everything, copy and paste it as many of you have probably done in the past. Easiest and simple way. Left click on that worksheet tab, hold down your control key at the same time, drag it across one place, let go, and look what it does. It instantly duplicates that worksheet for you. Absolutely brilliant. And now you know why it's one of my favorite tips. Okay? And the best part about this, guys, is, little bonus, that can be done across workbooks. You have two workbooks sitting side by side. If I open them, I could open up a brand new one and I can control, drag and drop from one workbook to another. Just like that. Really, really simple, but a really powerful one to have. The other one then, I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, tables. How brilliant are tables? If you're not using tables, you should be. Check out my videos on our YouTube channel as well. But if I want to convert this into a table, so my data becomes dynamic, click inside it, simply hit Control T. Is your range A2 to H88? I know it is. Does it have headers? It certainly does. I click OK. And look what it does. It instantly turns it into my table, or into a table, a dynamic data source, which is basically what you want when it comes to Excel. And the final part when it comes to all of this, guys, is just my lovely flash fill. Okay? So if you're flash filling something, so for example, you need to separate data out. Okay? I've done a video on this. I'm just going to show you this one really, really quickly. But if I have, say, I'm just going to use my name here. I'll just get rid of all of these for a second. I'm just going to do this one really, really quickly, just so you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay. I'm just going to use a couple of names here. Okay. So, if you've watched my videos before, you know about flash fill. So you already know this one. For those that don't, and if you want to learn a bit more about flash fill, go check out the videos on YouTube. Watch this. I'm going to type in Owen here. And I wanted to take all the first names. Okay? Because I want them in the first name column and a last name column. Maybe for mail merge purposes, whatever it is. Okay? I could go to my lovely data tab here and go to my lovely button here called flash fill, or use the shortcut key that I all use all the time, Control E, and look what it does for you. So the same way then, if I want the last name, how brilliant is that, by the way? And I hit Control E, and unbelievable. Phenomenal stuff when it comes to it. Okay? Trust me, some brilliant, brilliant shortcuts in there that we're just going to save you a whole heap of time when it comes to Excel. Like always, guys, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm releasing videos all the time. You'll also find us on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. You can also find a lot of these tips and tricks and all of what we offer on our website too at www.investinu.ie. I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Like always, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.